Hello friends, how are you? So friends, today we will discuss about oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve. It is the topic of the respiratory systems that is present inside the 11th NCRT. Okay, what is our topic? Oxy, oxyhemoglobin, hemoglobin, globin dissociation curve. Oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve. You can simply say oxygen dissociation curve. You can also say oxygen dissociation dissociation curve. You are right here. Graph between percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen. Percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen means how much oxygen bind with the hemoglobin. And you can say graph between graph between graph between percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen. Percentage saturation of hemoglobin HB with O2. HB with O2. Percentage saturation of hemoglobin with O2. With O2. O2. And concentration of oxygen, simply you can say concentration of oxygen, or you can say partial pressure of oxygen, because partial pressure of oxygen depends on the concentration of oxygen, and the partial pressure of oxygen with O2, and partial pressure partial pressure of O2. Simply this graph, shape of this graph is sigmoids. This curve is sigmoids curve. OD curve, you can say oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve, OD curve. What is the shape of OD curve? It is a sigmoid curve. Sigmoid curve. Shape shape of OD curve. OD curve. Shape of OD curve. That shape is the sigmoids. Sigmoids means S shape. You can say S shape. S shape curve. Now further we will discuss and draw the graph between the oxyhemoglobin formation and partial pressure of O2, then this type of graph. Suppose you can or you take here y-axis simply, and this is the x-axis, this is the simply x-axis. Then we draw this graph likewise S shape. This This S-shaped graph is known as the oxygen dissociation curve graph, OD curve. Here, saturation, maximum saturation. Here, maximum saturation of hemoglobin with O2 is 97%. 97%. And 50% saturation here. 50% saturation. 50%. What is at y-axis? At y-axis, you can say oxyhemoglobin formation, and oxyhemoglobin B is the HbO2, because hemoglobin Hb bind with the O2 and it form HbO2. HbO2. One hemoglobin bind with maximum 4 oxygen molecules. Maximum 4 oxygen molecules. Then it binding and formation of oxyhemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin break and form the hemoglobin plus oxygen. It is a reversible reaction, means the changeable both side reaction. You can say reversible, or sign of this, it is the equilibrium sign. Then 50% saturation at this point, you can say 50% saturation. Here at the x-axis, you can write here partial pressure of partial pressure partial pressure of O2. Partial pressure of O2. Okay, partial pressure of O2. And you can look here that here partial pressure of O2, PO2. PO2, here the 50% saturation, that partial pressure known as the P50 value. P50 value, where the 50% hemoglobin already saturated. That partial pressure of oxygen is known as the P50 value. Now, uh, many factors that affect the oxyhemoglobin formation. You can say formation of oxyhemoglobin. They are the many factors that affect it binding of oxygen with the hemoglobin. Then here you can say, firstly, further I will discuss about the factor. Simply, I have already discussed about the oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve. This graph is known as the oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. Oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve. Then the one at x-axis, you can write here the partial pressure of O2, and at the y-axis you can look here the hemoglobin formation HbO2, binding of hemoglobin with O2 and formation of oxyhemoglobin. Then the concentration of oxyhemoglobin you can write at the y-axis, and partial pressure of O2 at the x-axis. Then simply further say that the many factor that affecting the formation of oxyhemoglobin, and which factor that effect, and factor affecting factor affecting the formation of formation formation of oxyhemoglobin oxyhemoglobin hemoglobin, or you can write here HbO2, simply HbO2. Then first factor here is temperature. First factor is temperature. Other factor is pH, and third factor is partial pressure of O2 and partial pressure of CO2. Partial pressure of partial pressure of O2, O2, you can say PO2. You can say PO2. Partial pressure of O2, you can say PO2. Fourth factor is the partial pressure of CO2, PCO2. You can write here PCO2. And fifth factor here is the one chemical, then that chemical known as the 2,3 di by 2,3 phosphoglycerate. You can say bi, not di. Bi phospho phosphoglycerate, or 2,3 BPG. 2,3 BPG by phosphoglycerate. Okay. Then this factor I will discuss further in the next lecture. Thank you so much.